Welcome, Mohammed. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Rish, for having me here. It is a real pleasure to be here.
Tell me a bit about your background and then how, what you first thought of when you saw the position.
So, I am a licensed attorney based in Pakistan in the capital Islamabad. And here I'm practicing in the areas of commercial and corporate law mainly. But when the opportunity came of, applying as an ILA at Speakeasy, it was a very, different opportunity because I had not worked in a formal paralegal role before that. But it's very interesting to see that, it is an opportunity to support US attorneys in their day-to-day activities and, to learn from them as well. So that was, a very big motivating factor for me.
What's your goal after you've been doing this for however long? Do you want to move on and, eventually maybe come to the US, or why this experience? What do you like about it?
Before, Speakeasy, I had actually the opportunity of working in a company, which is a BPO company based in the US. So I had some exposure to, the US market and how it works. So this particular opportunity did allow me to, see the legal market of how it is working and how it performs. Personally speaking, there is no sudden plan of moving to the US at the moment. But as I mentioned, that this particular experience of getting to learn, US laws from the attorneys themselves and assisting them in, their day-to-day activities, it actually adds to, my personal exposure. And I believe that in comparison to many other Pakistani lawyers, I am much more equipped regarding the US laws. I have a much better understanding of them. And for that, that diversity is actually which differentiates me and which actually adds to my overall review.
What practice area are you working in right now?
Currently, I'm working with 3 different attorneys based in 3 different US states. And interestingly, all 3 of them are, working in different areas of law. So one of them is working primarily in probate and estate administration and family-related matters. The second one is working in arbitration, taxation matters primarily. And the third one is working in personal injury-related matters. So all 3 of them are different, and that is, that diversity which Speakeasy has provided.
First of all, is there any equivalent law in Pakistan, or is it totally different in the US and Pakistan in this area?
In Pakistan, the family law, because it primarily is based upon, religion. Islam is, the dominant religion in Pakistan. So it is a mixture of, the common law, which is the British law, and the Islamic jurisprudence and the Islamic laws. So it is an amalgamation of that particular. And it is same across the board. So Pakistan has, 4 provinces. So it is the same across all provinces. So there is no difference. But what I noted was that in the US, it is different because every state has their own particular laws for almost each and everything, apart from the federal laws. But that was, a very distinct difference from me.
Yeah, so if you have a probate matter, let's say there's, 3 brothers and their father passed away and each brother lives in a different state. Have you done any probate matters where it's that complicated?
Not at the moment, because the attorney I was working with only works in, one state. She works in Kentucky. She goes through all the cases in all the counties of Kentucky, but no cases have come across me which are not from the state.
That's okay. Okay. So what kind of work are you helping her to do? What's your day look like when you work on her stuff?
For that particular attorney, I have, worked a lot on the documentation part of the whole process. So you can say in a, one line that I've been managing the documentation process from start to end. So I draft the documents, and not only do I draft the documents, I then go on to e-file the document on the, e-system of the courts of that particular state. And then I also go on to, fill the particular documents according to the clients. And I also share those particular documents with the clients. So you can say that I'm, managing the whole process of the document from start to end. And that really, allows me to see the whole process from a greater perspective.
What's some of the feedback from the attorney you're working with? Like, is this helping her to manage her time better? or what has she told you? It's hopefully she's thanked you, and
When it comes to drafting probate packets and family related documentational packets, so the work may not be too difficult, but the documents which are part of those packets, they are a lot in number. And interestingly, the attorney I'm working with, the law firm she's running that alone. So she did not have any associate partner or any other paralegals. So actually, we were a 2-member team who were working all the time, and she had, luckily, she had a lot of work. She has a lot of clients, and that is the reason that the clients and the work keeps coming on. My particular work allows her to rest easy on the documentation part, and she only needs to give the final review before I file, and then she needs to go for the court appearances. So that has really decreased the burden of drafting each document by hand, and managing that particular load of work.
For an average probate, how long would it take her to draft the documents if she told you, versus how long does it take her now to just do the review?
Generally speaking, if we take a probate packet, it would take her around maybe you can say 1.5 hours to do that. And considering that each day we have multiple clients and we have multiple filings which you have to do. So if there are 6 clients and you have to file the probate documents for 6 different clients, you can add that up, 1.5 hours for each particular probate packet. So when I work for her, I can do the documentation part, I can draft the documents, I can complete the whole packet, and then I share that with her. So she only needs to review that, and as soon as she's done reviewing, I can file that immediately. So in the meanwhile, she can focus on more important work, which can be related to the pleadings which have to happen in the court, or maybe the depositions which have to take place. But she is not burdened with this particular work of drafting each document and this repetitive thing, because in probate work there are particular templates which you have to fill in with the details of each particular client. So rather than going through that burdensome process, through that repetitive process, she can just focus on the more important things of the legal process.
How long do you guess it would take her to do a review once you guys had a flow going?
When I started off, the time was more, it would take maybe, more than 1.5 hours, maybe up till 2 hours or maybe 2.5 hours. But at the point where we are currently, it takes me around half an hour to, draft the document. So that is for the particular drafting of the document. And then the rest of the time is only for, review and filing. Considering that there are multiple packets which need to be filed each day, you can, really calculate, the amount of time she might be saving from this.
Yeah, it sounds like probably half her day every day was just doing this before. Has she been more relaxed? Has she had more free time? Like, what have you noticed it's been like to work with her over time?
I'll once again go to the point that when we started off, it felt like the work was a lot, and, she was working each day. And the interesting thing was, she mentioned herself as well, that she was working all the time, and I saw that from her communication with me as well, that I would be getting an email from her maybe 5 in the morning. Maybe there was so much work for her. But as we proceeded towards that, the interesting thing was that there were some days in the week where I had no work, because the things for that week had been done, and she was taking that day off.
She was actually able to take a day off. That's good. And then, let's go to the next one. What type of attorney were you working with for number 2?
So the second attorney I am working with, he actually, is based in another state, in Colorado. His main practice revolves around corporate matters, arbitration matters, and taxation matters especially. So after I joined, he took up the pace, and, the tax season came in between that. So he actually took up the pace for that, and he was working on particular.
Essentially, you helped him to start a new practice area.
In this way, I will say that the reason why he took my services was that he actually needed to expand into another area of law. That was probate and family, estate administration and family areas. And for that, he needed the services to manage a platform which should fetch clients for him, but related to that particular field. That particular platform, it requires that you have to reply to the leads, and you have to follow up with them, and you have to answer their queries and everything. So it was very time taking for him. So what he did was that he took my services, and for him I managed that whole platform from start to end, from replying to the leads whenever they came in, ensuring that any leads which were relevant to his particular interest, they did not fall behind, and not only replying to them, then following up with them via text and emails, and then following up with them once every few weeks to ensure that any potential clients would not fall behind. What I noticed in the particular platform was that before I joined, the response rate, attorney replying to the responses, and trying to actually catch the new clients, it was around, I believe, 20% or 30%. But after we had completed 1 month, the response rate had gone up to 90%, because I was completely managing that particular platform, applying to all the potential clients and following up with them. So that really increased the opportunity of getting new clients and the response rate on the particular platform. So that was another field which he was trying to get into.
What was some of his feedback over time as you started working with him, and as he went into this new practice area? What did he tell you had changed about his workflow?
Every now and then the appointments did come up, lead clients were connected to him. So he appreciated the fact that we were actually getting connected to new potential clients. After talking to each one, he would determine whether they would suit him or not. So he would not share the particular details of it did happen or not, but he did appreciate that we were getting in touch with new clients. And because I was managing that particular platform, he could give his whole focus to the tax practice which had started around that time. At that time, I was not working with him on tax matters, but he realized that he needs to use my services for tax related matters as well. And that actually shows the diversity of this particular platform and the flexibility and evolution which it provides, that eventually he brought me into the tax part as well, and he trained me and he is still training me as well, for the purpose that in the post-tax season and in the next tax season, he would be employing my skills for the tax side as well to the fullest. So that is an interesting part, that the purpose for bringing me in was primarily a bit different, but when he saw the potential that my services can be used in another area as well, so he has been training me for that as well, to employ in in the coming days.
What about the third person that you're working with? What do they do?
So the third law firm I'm working with, they are based in Connecticut, and their area of work is primarily personal injury law. A very big part of that practice is getting medical and billing documents for the client, starting that process of ensuring that the insurance companies are well handled and everything. You have certain templates which you have to fill in, and you have it does take time, and you have to send the particular request in a particular form and through particular platforms. I've been supporting them in regards to drafting the request for acquiring medical and billing documents using the platforms which they use, such as FileVine and ChartSwap, faxing those particular requests through ChartSwap and SWFX to ensure that the medical documents and the billing, it goes directly to the firm.
In 2026, people and companies are still using fax machines?
I believe so. They are. The process is a bit modernized, because we can send in the fax from emails and received on the other end. But it is what it is at the end of the day. So it is working like that. So my role is in regards to drafting the request and then faxing those requests to the relevant record keepers. And the work is repetitive, the work is time taking. So when I'm doing this work, the attorney is able to focus on the more important part of the proceeding, He can, prepare for the pleadings. He can prepare for, the depositions and, the other important parts of the whole process. And I can handle this, with a very important task, but a very, repetitive task for him. And that, I hope so, takes away the burden of doing it himself.
So 3 new practice areas, at least, you've had to deal with over the past, I don't know, 8 months or 6 or 8 months or so, right?
There is no other place, I believe, which you can get this particular opportunity that you are working with, number one, with different attorneys in different states of the US and in so much different, practice areas, which are not correlated in any regard. And you have to adapt to the new attorneys, and you do that. And that is, the beauty of the whole process, that there is so much learning in all of it that I really do, appreciate it. And, I really do consider myself really lucky for, getting this particular opportunity.
So you know what's going on. You're highly trained. You've helped one attorney in probate and family law to now take a day off when before that she was working, sounds like 24/7.
Yeah.
You helped another attorney to go to a new practice area confidently, which is very scary for a lot of attorneys, and do it profitably, so that's great. And you've handled 3 different practice areas. You've even dealt with faxes. So that's really great. That's fantastic that you're able to do all that stuff. Is there any limitation you see, versus what a paralegal would do that you can't do?
I don't think so, honestly, because I believe the beauty of, the virtual world is that we are connected across countries, across time differences and everything. But, here I am sitting in Pakistan, and I do believe, that I can do all of those particular things which any other paralegal would do sitting in the States.
What are some good traits that an attorney needs to have or know in order to work effectively with a paralegal, and especially with, with someone like you that's highly trained?
Because at the end of the day, they have their own particular personality. So the ILA, or the paralegal, they have to adapt to the personality of the particular attorneys. One thing which I did notice, that everyone has their particular work traits and, they have their own work styles. Some people, prefer to work around the clock. Some people prefer to work, 3 days a week maybe. And it is different. But I believe that, with the proper guidance and with a very professional manner, I believe that the paralegal can be a very, formidable part of the team. And they can handle all the pressure which you might have been handling yourself for a long time. So number one, I believe, is trust, that you have to trust that the, ILA, they can do a good job. It might take some days, maybe to get to learn, that particular new field of law, which they've been, just introduced to. But considering that ILAs, they are trained professionals, they have that capacity of absorbing new information and acting accordingly. So trust would allow them to show a bit of, patience in the beginning. In the longer run, they would be able to, pay the fruit of all of that effort, because the paralegal, they would be handling, the ILA would be handling a lot of their work, which was a burden for them in their day-to-day practice.
What would you say that other ILAs that are considering doing this for work, what do they need to know to be successful?
Number one, to be open to learning new things, because when I hear the term DocketWorks, maybe, or speakeasy, the 2 words which come to my mind are, diversity and flexibility. So you need to have that mindset of learning new things. You have to be open to learning new things. You have to be open to learning new technologies. You have to be open to learning new platforms. And you have to be very street smart. You have to be very considerate that the person you are working with, they are giving a very, very important work, which is their bread and butter, which is very important for them and which is very important for the people who that particular attorney is representing. So they have to ensure that they take the responsibility, they learn the thing, whatever which is being taught to them, and then they apply it, very honestly and very responsibly. And where there is any sort of confusion or there is any lacking, they should ensure that they take guidance right away, so that the matter can be handled in a very professional manner, in a manner which it should be.
Well, Mohammed, thanks so much for taking the time to do this and to talk about your experience. I think it really helps and brings some of this like mystery to life. So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Rish, for having me. It is a great honor to be here. It is a very great honor to be working with you guys. And yeah, once again, I will mention that I really appreciate the opportunity, and I really feel lucky to be here. And thank you once again for having me.